Hi guys and welcome to my channel. This video is going to be about the Turkish language. A lot of people all around the world have been wanting to learn Turkish because they're fascinated by Turkish drama series. So I thought to myself, why do I not take a video on that since I'm teaching other languages on my channel? As most of you guys already know, I was born and raised in Germany, but both my parents are Turkish, so Turkish is my mother tongue, and I've been living in Istanbul for 3 years now. So in this video, you're going to get some insights into the Turkish language, know what kind of a language it is, see all the basics of the grammar, the differences to the English language, and you will also be able to decide if it's a hard or a rather easy language for you to learn. And by the end of this video, you will also learn some basic sentences and also get to introduce yourself in Turkish. So stick around. The first thing that I want to point out before actually speaking about grammar is that Turkish belongs to the Turkic language family, which means even though it is partially located in Europe and partially located in Asia, it is not a European language and it is not an Arabic language either, which is a big misconception about Turkish because a lot of people around the world believe that Turkish is an Arabic language. It is not. Just over 100 years ago, the official language was Ottoman Turkish, which was highly influenced by Persian and Arabic, and the alphabet was also the Arabic alphabet. However, in 1928, founder of the modern Republic of Turkey, Mustafa Kemal Atatürk, switched over to the Latin alphabet, which led to the fact that the literacy rate skyrocketed. And by doing that, he also wanted that a lot of Arabic and Persian words were replaced by Turkish words. So some old Turkish words were brought back to life and also some new words were created. But some Arabic and Persian words still exist in today's Turkish, and for that reason we sometimes have two words with the same meaning and we use them both equally. For example, we have basit and kolay, which both mean easy in Turkish. Or we have hafıza and bellek, which both mean memory in Turkish. And most of the time we're not really aware of the actual origin of the word, so we just use them both. Okay, so most people ask me, is Turkish a hard language for me to learn? Well, it depends because Turkish is an agglutinative language. And let me put it this way, it's a whole different kind of animal. When you're a native English speaker or when your mother tongue is a Latin language or a European language, you might have struggles thinking in Turkish because it is structurally different. Well, I hear you asking, what does agglutinative language mean? It means that Turkish doesn't really like to add words to add meaning to a sentence. It rather adds prefixes and suffixes and thus behaves in a different way than other languages you might know. I'll give you an example on that. For instance, the word comfortable is rahat in Turkish. If you want to say uncomfortable, you say rahatsız. If you say rahatsızlık, you suddenly have a noun and say discomfort. If you say rahatsızlıklar, it becomes plural. Then you can say rahatsızlıkları, which means their discomfort. Rahatsızlıklarından means because of their discomfort. And then you can do some reported speech and say rahatsızlıklarındanmış, which would mean it was because of their discomfort. That's why in Turkish we can have words like muvaffakiyetsizleştiricileştiriveremeyebileceklerimizdenmişsinizcesine, which is one word and literally means as though you are from those whom we may not be able to easily make into a maker of unsuccessful ones. Well, as you can imagine, this is not a common Turkish word and we don't usually do that. And obviously I had no idea what I was saying while saying it. So let this not bother you. So what I really like about Turkish is that it's a gender-free language. We don't have any genders, so you can't go he, she, it in Turkish. You just say o, which literally means he, she, it, but without gender. So in English, for instance, when I say he is going, you could tell that it's a male person, right? But in Turkish, it would be o gidiyor. So by only looking at the sentence, you would not be able to tell if it's a man, a woman, a transgender, a non-binary identified person, an animal, or maybe an object. And I think that's beautiful because I don't need any further information about that, right? I can just look at the context. And what's also cool about Turkish is that we don't have articles. The word the doesn't exist in Turkish. And that's why a lot of Turkish people actually struggle learning English. You really have to think about other languages, not only English, but for instance, German has 3 articles, which makes it really hard to learn. But in Turkish, when you want to say the car, you just go araba, which is car, and the car. So thank you for that, Turkish. Unlike English verbs, Turkish verbs are being conjugated. This might sound a little weird to English speakers, but on the plus side, Turkish doesn't have any irregular verbs. Unlike German or Spanish, if you want to learn German or Spanish, you have to know how to conjugate verbs, and then you have to memorize all the irregular verbs, and that drives people crazy. Turkish is way easier when it comes to that. Okay, here's another fact about Turkish. Turkish is not a phonetic language. Even though a lot of people claim it is not. I can say out of all the languages I know, it is one of the closest to be phonetic, but it is not. You will hear a lot of people claim that every single letter of the alphabet has only one sound, which is not true. But as a beginner, I don't want to give you too much insight into that, because as long as you don't want to come to that point where you want to sound native, it doesn't really matter that much. What is also different in Turkish is the sentence structure. Most European languages have a strict word order, which means you have to use subject, verb, object in that specific order to make it sound right. Well, Turkish has a word order too, which is subject, object, verb, but it's a little bit more flexible than other languages. When I say I'm going home in English, I go subject, verb, object. I am going home. Subject, verb, object. In Turkish, you'd say ben eve gidiyorum, which is subject, object, verb. I'm literally saying I am home going. However, in spoken Turkish, we're not really that strict with that order. We just sometimes go eve gidiyorum ben, and it doesn't sound wrong to our ears. Whereas in English or other languages, you really can't do that. I can't go home I'm going in English. What we also generally do in spoken Turkish is that we just omit subjects and subject pronouns. For instance, when I want to say I am sleeping, I can say ben uyuyorum, but I can just omit the ben, which stands for I, and just say uyuyorum, because the conjugated verb already includes the pronoun, so that using the pronoun becomes redundant, so that we don't use them unless we want to put emphasis on the pronoun and say, no, he didn't go, I went, it was me. The same rule applies to possessive pronouns. When I want to say this is my car in Turkish, I can say bu benim arabam. This is my car. But I can also omit the benim, which stands for my, and just say bu arabam. Because car actually means araba in Turkish, but by using the word with an M at the end, I'm already showing that it is my car, so that using the word benim becomes redundant unless I want to put emphasis on it. Okay, but what about the alphabet? Let's take a look at the Turkish letters. But not all the letters. Let's just focus on some letters that are different in other languages. So as I said, we use the Latin alphabet, but we don't have the letters Q, W, and X in Turkish, because we already have other letters that do make the same sounds. Most letters are similar to Turkish, but some are not. For example, the letter C is pronounced J in Turkish. It's the J sound as in jump. For example, the word cam, which stands for glass in Turkish. Then we have the same letter with a cedilla underneath it, C cedilla. You might have seen this letter before if you speak Albanian, French, or Portuguese. It is pronounced Ç in Turkish. It's the ç as in chair. For example, the word çilek is strawberry in Turkish. Then we have this letter, G with breathe. We call it yumuşak G in Turkish, which means soft G actually. There is no sound in English that is equivalent to this sound, but don't worry, in modern Istanbul Turkish, it is never pronounced. Well, it was supposed to be pronounced when the Turkish language was founded, but over time it evolved and got absorbed in everyday Turkish. I'll give you some examples on how it was supposed to be pronounced and how it has to be pronounced now, today, in modern Istanbul Turkish. For instance, this word, it was supposed to be pronounced araç, but it is pronounced ağaç. Ağaç. All you hear is a long A sound, no breathe G sound. In this word, shout, it was supposed to be pronounced bağırmak, and some people still pronounce it that way, but it is wrong. The correct pronunciation is bağırmak. And again, you hear there is no breathe G sound in modern Istanbul Turkish. Let's move on. This letter is an I without a dot and is pronounced And again, there is no one-to-one equivalent in English or any other language I know, but I can say it is close to the schwa sound. I'll give you an example. For instance, the word light in Turkish is ışık. Işık. As you can hear, it is a vowel sound. And now imagine the schwa sound you have in, let's say, the word attend. attend, just take that sound and try to put more emphasis on it and try to act like it's a stronger vowel than it actually is. So don't go as in attend, just go ışık, ızgara, ıstakoz, ılık. This might need some practice, but I don't think it is too hard. Then the letter J is pronounced J in Turkish. As you can hear, it is the J sound as in genre. For example, in the word jilet, which is razor in Turkish. Then we have the O with the two dots on it. You might already know it if you speak German. In English, it is close to the sound you have in work or birth. It is pronounced as in ölüm, which is death in Turkish. I really could have picked a better word. Then the letter R is pronounced differently in Turkish. You really roll the R sound. It is not that much as it is in Spanish. So in Spanish you would go perro or rápido. In Turkish you would just say r. It is just a little bit of rolling. So in comparison to English, for instance, my name would not be Reşat, it would be Reşat. Reşat. So let's give a word in Turkish. For instance, the word color is renk in Turkish. Renk. And then we have this letter, an S with a cedilla underneath it. It is ş, as in şaka, which is joke in Turkish. And as you can hear, it's the sh sound as in ship. Then we have the U with two dots on it, which you might know from German. It is pronounced Ü and has no equivalent in English. Ü as in üzüm, which is grape in Turkish. Okay, now we have seen a lot of differences and similarities. Let's take a look at some basic sentences. How can we introduce ourselves when speaking Turkish? For instance, if you want to say, hi, I'm Reşat, you can go, merhaba, ben Reşat. Merhaba, ben Reşat. Or instead of merhaba, you can say selam, which is a little bit more informal. Selam, ben Reşat. You wouldn't say that in a job interview, but if you met a friend's friend, for example. Instead of I'm Reşat, you can also say my name is Reşat, which would be benim adım Reşat. Benim adım Reşat. Who are you? Sen kimsin? Sen kimsin? Unlike English, Turkish has a grammar form of speaking politely to foreigners or people that we respect. You might know this from Spanish or German. In Spanish, this will be usted or ustedes. In German, it will be Sie. In Turkish, we say, instead of sen, you, we use the plural form and say siz to show respect to somebody we don't know or who is maybe located higher in a hierarchy system at your workplace. So instead of sen kimsin, I would then say siz kimsiniz? Siz kimsiniz? Which is who are you, but in a more polite and formal way. What's your name? Adın ne? Adın ne? Or if you want to be more polite, adınız ne? Adınız ne? It's nice to meet you. Tanıştığımıza memnun oldum. Tanıştığımıza memnun oldum. Okay, this one's hard, I get it. Tanıştığımıza memnun oldum. Or you can just go memnun oldum. It's also applicable. Memnun oldum. Nice to meet you. How are you? Nasılsın? Nasılsın? Or if you want to be more polite, nasılsınız? Nasılsınız? And then again we use the word naber in Turkish, naber, but it is very informal and you wouldn't say that to somebody you don't know. How can we reply to that? İyiyim, iyiyim. I'm good, I'm fine. Or you can obviously say bad instead of fine. Kötüyüm, kötüyüm. I'm bad, I feel bad. Sen nasılsın? How are you? Sen nasılsın? Or again, if you want to be polite, siz nasılsınız? Siz nasılsınız? Okay, here's a big difference in the Turkish language that I want to point out because it is very important in spoken Turkish. As you might have noticed, when I introduced myself, I said, ben Reşat, which literally translates into I Reşat. So I haven't used a verb in a sentence. Why is that? Well, it is because the actual way of saying it would be ben Reşat'ım, because the word be in Turkish is olmak, and if you want to conjugate it and use it in a sentence, you have to say ben Reşat'ım. However, we don't generally do that. You can't hear a lot of people actually say it that way. So in a lot of cases in spoken Turkish, the verb be becomes redundant. It is not 100% grammatically correct to use it that way, but it is what we do in spoken Turkish. I know this might sound weird to any English, German, Spanish, and French speaker because you guys probably can't imagine how that works. How can I say I am without using the word am, right? But we do, and it doesn't sound wrong. That's why a lot of Turkish people struggle with learning English and using the word be actually. The same applies to the word have in Turkish. Have means sahip olmak, but we generally don't use that. We express it in a different way. Instead of using the word have in Turkish, we generally use the word var, which is literally translated into there is or there are. So if you want to have a literal translation of the sentence I have a car in Turkish, it would be ben bir arabaya sahibim. But in most cases, people will not say that. We rather say benim arabam var, which literally translates into there is a car that belongs to me. But it definitely sounds like I have a car, so don't think we're weird. Foreigners really have to get used to the fact that we don't really use the words be and have in spoken Turkish that much. As I said, it might feel a little bit odd in the beginning, but you get used to it. And I think for the first lesson, you guys should also know how to count in Turkish from 1 to 10. So it goes bir, bir, iki, iki, üç, üç, dört, dört, beş, beş, altı, altı, yedi, yedi, sekiz, sekiz, dokuz, dokuz, on, on. Okay, I think by now you should have an idea about the Turkish language. Let me know if you like it or if you think it's a hard language to learn. Does it sound cool to your ear? Let me know in the comments down below. If there is demand, I might take some more videos on Turkish lessons. If you enjoyed this video, please make sure to give it a thumbs up. And if you haven't done it yet, make sure to subscribe to my channel and hit the notification bell to make sure to receive notifications when I post a video. Take care!